Hey guys, welcome to my video. Today I will be reviewing episode 5 of Loki. As usual, this video will include heavy spoilers for this episode of Loki and the show as a whole so far, so please don't watch this video if you care about spoilers and haven't seen Loki yet. Anyways, I thought episode 5 of Loki was pretty good. I didn't think it was great, but I thought it was okay. Like I say for pretty much every episode review, this episode of Loki looks stunning. They really must have had a huge budget for the show because it looks really good. This feels cinematic, the story is great too. Maybe it's a little repetitive sometimes, but it's still great. I think a musical score can make a scene like 10 times better just by being there in a scene. I'm glad they brought Loki and Mobius back in this episode. We all knew Loki was coming back based on the post-credit scene in episode 4 and the show is named Loki. What are we gonna do, kill him off halfway through a show or I just 2/3 through a show? But we didn't know anything about Mobius coming back. No matter how I feel about so many characters coming back in the MCU, I'll get to that later, I'm glad Mobius was also brought back, because it just made sense that he would be if Loki survived being pruned as well. The place everyone ends up after they get pruned is so cool. This place feels desolate, and the mood feels sad and eerie. Even though these scenes aren't the most fun, they create a great mood for the episode. Each episode of this show has felt different than the last, and this episode was no different. Meeting all the other Lokis was awesome. There were so many of them. It was great seeing how, you really can't trust a Loki. All of this build-up of seeing so many Lokis made Mobius' line where he whispers who his favorite Loki is, it just made it so much more impactful because we see how many of them are. It makes it special because, if he whispered that to Loki and it was just one Loki or just him and Sylvie, that wouldn't really matter. But when there's so many, I just think it makes the line so much better. Also, I really liked that dynamic between Loki, Sylvie, and Mobius. It was much better than I imagined it would be. I love how each Loki feels different. Every single Loki we meet is somehow different than one another, but they still are all Lokis at heart. That's just so funny to me. The room where we meet the Lokis who save our Loki, the main character, is great, and there were so many interesting Easter eggs there. I was told watching a few videos just seeing what was in there, especially when they had that ground view of the dirt. It was a fraud 4. That was incredible. I think the way Asgard was shown in this episode was really creative. You can't have an entire show about Loki and not show Asgard somewhere, and the way the producers did it with classy Loki making an illusion was just so good. Now, to get to some of the things I didn't like about episode 5 of Loki. Unlike a lot of the episode reviews I've done so far, there's a lot more things I didn't like. I don't like how Hunter B-15 had all this great development in episode 4, but in this episode, I think she was only in one scene. They built her up only to break her down in the next episode. I hope she's in episode 6 more, but I just see so much wasted potential in this episode because she wasn't really in it. She was just interrogated, and that was it. Loki still has one more episode left, so I won't put this complaint in the ugly section of this video, but I don't think Ravonna is a very good villain in this episode. She sees the timekeepers, the people she has served all of her life that she can remember, and she sees them die. She doesn't stop working for the TVA when this happens, but instead she takes charge to find who is actually behind all of this. Now this made sense, it made sense they want to find out who's actually doing all of this, but it doesn't make sense why she tried to kill Sylvie or prune her. I guess that's not really killing her, but still, it doesn't make sense. I guess she knows not to trust the Loki, but still her ideology seems flawed. It just doesn't make sense why she would do this. It seems like she's being evil because the show needs someone to be a villain. Speaking of flawed ideology, Sylvie doesn't make much sense to me. If she was dragged away by the TVA and lost her home on Asgard, then why did she burn those TVA workers alive at one time? I think at the end of the first episode. She knew the TVA workers were just like her. They lost their homes because of the timekeepers, or lost them to whoever was in charge, and I guess maybe she didn't know? I'm not sure if we actually know when she found out that all the TVA workers were humans or variants that were taken away and they lost their memories, but it just seems weird because those people had lives just like Sylvie, but they lost them. The timekeepers, and Sylvie's in the same boat here. You just wouldn't think after knowing this she would burn these poor people alive. Unfortunately, I didn't really care about the death of classic Loki. It just didn't really connect with me, and it wasn't nearly as sad as I think it was supposed to. I guess this is a pretty subjective criticism, which is something I try to avoid. Like, anyone can feel different about this. Some people probably were crying in that scene. I didn't really care, but I think it's a glaring issue of this episode because it's a big plot point, it's a big emotional story beat, and it didn't really matter to me. I said before that death doesn't feel permanent in the MCU, and yeah, classic Loki is dead, but I just can't help but feel this is something that the producers of the show added to make people feel sad. This feels like something that added so someone would die in the series up to this point. It feels unnecessary, it just isn't good. I feel like there should have been more build up because we only knew this character at the start of the episode. I guess we did meet him in the post-credits scene before in episode 4, but still, we haven't known him for that long, so it didn't really matter. When someone like Loki dies or gets pruned, that's emotional because we've known him for so long. We've known our Loki, but when it's just this classic Loki, I don't know. I just didn't really care. Anyways, I thought this episode of Loki was okay. I think it was my least favorite so far, or at least one of them, but it was still entertaining. I didn't connect too much with this episode emotionally, but there were still some incredible moments. I'm really excited to see what happens in episode 6, the season finale. I rate episode 5 of Loki a 7.5 out of 10. It's a pretty average episode. So, thanks for watching guys, please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video because it would really mean a lot. Make sure to tell me if there are any movies or shows you'd like to see me review next, and I will see you in the next video.